life. Boston's Mayor Michelle Wu is with us this morning. Let's go on the record. With winter closing in, the mayor makes her move on Mass and Cass. But removing the tents and the tarps is only part of the solution. The long-term challenges still in plain sight. Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Welcome to OTR, everyone. I'm Ed Harding, along with News Radio's political reporter, Sharma Saketi. It's great to have you with us. As you can see, Mayor Michelle Wu is in the chair. She joins us at the table. It's all right. Let's dive in, Mayor. It's always great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me, as always.
Great to see you.
Thanks for being here. So you were late. You were here last in August when you had announced your plan for the tent ordinance over at Mass and Cass. Now the City Council's approved it. It starts on Wednesday. People would first be offered shelter, a way to get to the shelter, and a place to store their belongings. How confident are you that this is a permanent solution?
You know, there's no magic wand in a very complex, long-standing challenge that cities around the country are facing with the opioid crisis, homelessness, mental health. But we know that in Boston, we have a very good sense of not only who it is who needs services, but also how to most effectively connect people to those services. We built up an infrastructure of housing with wraparound medical supports. And so as we
you have outreach workers out there speaking with people, you
24
know who
hours
you're
a day.
dealing with.
Exactly. And so as we now ramp up the public safety side of things to just be able to move with more immediacy and response and take down some of the tents and tarps by connecting people to shelter, our teams have already been working with folks for weeks now, identifying exactly which placement is best for their individualized needs. Dozens of people have already said they are excited and eager to go to this particular space that's been created and that they've been connected to. And over the next week, we'll see people move in and the area returned more to standard roadway operations.
You know, one of the things that Boston has seen is a lot of people coming from outside the area.
That's
certainly
right.
Has been an issue. And you've talked about how it's a regional problem, but do you think this will be permanent? Because every time it seems that you're able to help some folks, more show up.
This is why we really needed a citywide approach, and this ordinance and all the pieces of it with housing and transportation and services is about making sure every neighborhood can have access to that. And so we know that when I first came into office, there were 147 people we had identified and talked to who've been living in the area for years. We've since now moved more than 180 people all the way through transitional housing, supportive housing, into permanent housing, and then hundreds more have arrived. So we are working very closely with the state as well as the governor and her team have created this model in other cities additionally, and we will continue to do our part so that now, as the Mass and Cass area is shifted in nature and we won't see more of the crowds and large gatherings, we will have mobile teams of our public health outreach staffers as well as police officers and housing coordinators be able to go citywide, and we're set up to make sure that is every neighborhood. So
as everybody knows, there's an awful lot to peel back here, but it took the City Council 2 months before they finally voted on your ordinance. What was that lost time, those 2 months?
It wasn't. I think we had been hoping and really pushing that there would be maximum time for public notice because we wanted to walk everyone through. And the day that the ordinance was signed, right after the vote, notices began going out to folks just because the temperatures are about to get much colder. But we had planned for a period of ramping up the housing and shelter expansion. More than 100 additional beds are added to the system now to be able to connect people into, and then all the mechanisms. And so this was sort of the last date that we were able to see that take place, but we'd been ready for it and had baked that into the
Do notices reach? I mean, do people on the area pick up a notice and actually read it?
I think it's hard for someone who might not be there every single day to understand the dynamic fully, but our teams are there 24 hours a day and know each and every person who is there, whether someone is a regular and is sleeping there overnight, or someone has housing, but they're there to engage in other activities, or there may be even many folks who are coming in to participate in drug trafficking or other criminal activity that we are really going to target now. And so it's the notices are in 11 languages, they're paper copies, but these conversations have been ongoing for weeks through our staff on the ground.
And I think it's important to mention you are going to have a sizable police presence out there.
That's
so
right.
If someone does show up and starts to put up a tent, what happens?
So the conversation, a coordinated team of law enforcement along with public health outreach workers and our community providers will communicate with each person to make sure they understand the shelter options that are available and engage them to
But that tent's
provide
not gonna be able to go
transportation. The tent won't be able to go up, and if it is up, then it will be asked to be taken down.
You know in the past, Mayor, that we've gone through, you've taken whatever, plows or shovels, and you've moved everything out, and in a period of time, you fill it in, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, a month, it's all back again. So what makes you think it's not going to be all back again by December 1st?
This really has been a progression for the city where the very first time we connected everyone to housing and then were able to take down the tents, that was the very beginning. That kind of housing, what we call low threshold housing, that's accessible to all, including those in substance use and with mental health challenges, that had not existed before in Boston. And so over these last 18 months, almost 2 years, we've really been coordinating and making all the tweaks necessary to just have it down to a science almost of how to move people and coordinate with all of our partners to make this system work. And now for the first time, we also have the laws on the books so that our Boston police can act immediately instead of with the 48-hour waiting period that had been the previous set of rules.
You're a mother. You're a mayor, but you're a mother. And when that story popped a couple of weeks ago that a toddler was seen on Mass and Cass, did you consider enacting the ordinance right then and there, lickety split?
So I think it's just a heartbreaking example of how wide the reach of the opiate crisis touches every demographic, every generation, including parents with young kids, need access to services and supports. As soon as our teams saw that there was a baby out there, they had been, I think, in the car overnight, but then out during the day, the appropriate entities were contacted and state agencies stepped in as well. But it's a very, not only a dangerous situation to be in for a young person exposed to the elements, but people who need services are often being preyed on by those who are coming to the area, even though they have housing, because they know
most of the people
folks
down there have housing.
That's
You've
right.
said that.
Right.
I do want to ask you one more thing. You are moving to rebuild the Long Island Bridge. Final
Yes.
approvals expected soon. We haven't heard an update on that in a couple of weeks. So where does that project stand?
Yep, so we have put out to bid for the project management team. We're beginning design and doing everything we can while we're waiting for the last 2 permits to come through. Those are more formalities, and we hope the plan is we anticipate that by the end of this calendar year. And in the meantime, we've been meeting and coordinating with all of the recovery program providers, with all the healthcare institutions, just to ensure we have a plan for what will go on the island so construction of the bridge and construction of the buildings and services can happen at the same time.
I'd like to talk about the migrant housing, and if I use the word crisis, is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. The migrant housing crisis. Governor Healy announced earlier this month that shelter capacity would be capped to 7,500 families. That could happen any day now, as the governor said. So, but there's no cap on need, right? So you've said you'll support new arrivals, and how will you do that?
We've now met a couple different times with some of the federal authorities as well, and Governor Healy and her team have been absolutely incredible about trying to just turn over every rock to identify more housing, to identify more partners. The key with this system is that there's not an endless supply of beds, but people are eager and hoping to move out of the system once they can get a job, get on their feet, start to pay rent. And so the faster that we can connect people to those opportunities and free up spaces, that's how we move everyone through either the programs that we've set up for Mass and Cass or for migrant families. And it's a lot of coordination.
That could affect schools too, if kids are involved, and kids are involved, right?
Yeah, and in Boston, we are well prepared for families with multilingual backgrounds. There are several hundred migrant students in the Boston Public Schools this year, and it's been wonderful. We have the space, we have the programs, we have the supports. I know many of the other communities across Massachusetts have maybe smaller school districts. It's more of a challenge, but we've been eager and ready to get these families incorporated.
These emergency shelters are filled at this point. Are you concerned about when more families do come, what happens when there's no more room left? Where do they go?
It's very much a fluid system. And so again, the sooner that the more efficiently we can help families who have been here for a little bit of time exit that emergency system because they're able to be identified with permanent housing and jobs and supports, the more we can manage the influx of families. And so we continue to work with the state and the federal government. There's some changes that we understand are coming from the federal government as well in order to speed that up on work authorization and clinics on the ground.
You expect that to happen soon?
So the federal government had already announced, in response to Governor Healy and so many advocating to speed up certain parts of that process, that they're devoting more resources and there's multiple pathways to access the legal immigration system, but a couple of the ones that are used most often, they've committed to really cutting down the time and moving more efficiently.